Hey, I'll just be mindful that we do touch on suicide and suicidal ideation for a split second, so just be mindful of that and enjoy the episode.
Stay safe. Pixar just posted a teaser for Inside Out 2 that has an anxiety character.
You're lying.
I know this is the Janus episode, and that'd be hilariously on theme, but no, that is just the painful truth.
I don't think there's anything that could piss me off more than that.
Triple Dankum will make you smile. I don't remember the words. Anyways,
I like that version better, I think.
It's the best one. Because whoever really remembers the words of those earworms that like get in your brain from commercials? You just get the tune, and then you're like, that's it. Anyways, hi.
Hi, everybody.
Oh,
hey,
wow.
How's it going?
Well, you sound defeated.
Oh boy, do I.
Well, first off, I'm Tech Real.
I'm Amy.
And welcome to Side-ology.
We are basically filming on the day that the Inside Out 2 teaser trailer came out, and I'm...
Oh boy. I almost said that in a Mickey Mouse voice. I don't know why.
Listen,
boy.
Mickey, we're not talking about... Well, I mean, technically we're talking about you, but we're talking about your sister company. Anyway, we're only going to talk about it for a little bit because we got some Janus to talk about.
Oh, we got some Janus to talk about, but
but
we would be remiss if we didn't use this podcast, which is like just as much our mental health podcast as it is our Sandersides podcast, to talk about a mental health media for a little bit. And don't even get me wrong, we're definitely... I want to make this claim without being too committal, but like also... I think we're both pretty jazzed about the idea that when this movie comes out, we're definitely making another Inside Out episode. That's my intention. That's what I really want to do. So
we probably will.
Because as much as like that one is definitely going to be a lot more about Inside Out than Sandersides, because even the first one was already bordering on that, I feel like it's very important to look at that, like, the big mainstream mental health media, especially since it's the franchise that did somewhat inspire Sandersides, and especially now that there's an anxiety character, like, there's things going to be said.
I can't... Oh.
Woo. And that's not the only character that we're privy to, too.
Yep, Tech Real waited to show me the teaser until I was on call, and I didn't even know it was happening, and I hate that I am so defeated about it so suddenly. Like, I had heard the other day that there was going to be an anxiety character, and I was like, I know I'm going to be biased because I really can't think of another way to portray anxiety besides Virgil that I'm going to like.
Yeah. Because
I identify so closely with Virgil. So, like, what's going to happen? And then that came out, and... I'll say it this way. Mm-hmm. I've said this on my Instagram story too. I tried to talk about that character through Tech Real, and I called it orange. I didn't call it anxiety. No. And I don't think I ever will, because it's so... that's all I'm gonna say about it. I'm just so... Well, the last thing I'll say is it feels like an annoying, silly, weak character. And that's
I like
the
that
last...
she's quirky. Isn't that great? Isn't anxiety quirky?
That is the stereotype for people with anxiety. It just is.
It's so quirky.
The fact that they're annoying. It's the fact that they worry too much. It's the fact that they freak out. Whereas Virgil makes it look like it's a defense.
Yeah.
Just overprotective, which is what it is. So
It honestly feels like it's sugarcoating almost, like what anxiety is, like more so than anything. Because that's what I like about Virgil, is that he's so frontwards about like how terrible it can feel. Whereas this character's like, oh, sorry, I'm nervous. I'm a little frazzled. Oh.
And no, that's not how anxiety feels.
No.
As someone with anxiety disorder, that's not how that feels. So that character is not going to be called that by me. Because, I mean, I know I'm also biased because there's an anxiety in Sandersides, because his original name was Anxiety, but at the same time, like, I can't.
It's just weird. They got it wrong right off the bat in the sense that it's the anxiety character who's the front runner introducing themselves and imparting themselves onto their space. Like, as someone with anxiety, I don't think I could ever do that. Even if I know I'm supposed to be somewhere, I'm gonna walk in there like, oh, I do not belong here. You do not want me here, and I feel terrible even trying to talk to you, let alone just bursting in and being like, I'm here now. And also I have like three other people with me too. So deal with it. It's like,
literally
what?
just immediately them putting their hand out and being like, hi, hello? No.
Very no.
No.
We also have new characters, Ennui, which is
I was
going
to mention Ennui because you've had we both had roundabouts with depression, but I think you more so than me.
Oh, I'm constantly there. I'm always I've that's been my whole 2023, to be completely frank. I've been going through it. I've had no motivation since like December.
But you've made a podcast and you're doing stellar things.
Well, so. But no, as someone, for someone who does deal with a lot of depression, seeing a character named Ennui, which Ennui also, let me clarify, is not, by definition depression. It's more of like I don't have the exact definition in front of me, but from what I recall, it's sort of like a lack of interest, a lack of, like, it's sort of somewhere in a boredom, a sort of a blah, rather than a depression, but from the very small glimpse there is of this character, plus the fact that I know these companies, I know what they're going to do. This is going to be the depression character, because they don't really kind of have the balls to say depression, which is funny because they're saying anxiety, so...
Well, I was going to say, why the fuck are they throwing anxiety like that? Anxiety isn't... Oh,
I think I know why, and I think I told you, and it's just minor dark mention of a subject here. I think that they're worried to say depression because depression is fairly tied. In a lot of people's minds, depression is tied with subjects like suicide. And I feel because of that, they're worried to make that association because they're going to be like, oh, people would see that and be like, oh, is Riley going to do something? But, like, people can very much have depression and not be suicidal. And I think that's very important to show. I mean, I deal with a lot of depression and I've never been that, and I'd never intend to be that because I am too scared of death to leave life. So,
that's okay.
but no, it's just I can tell it's gonna be interesting that they're going to try to tackle that type of thing. In addition to the fact that it's redundant because we have sadness, just like anxiety feels a bit redundant because we have fear. Just like embarrassment feels a bit redundant. There's an embarrassment character who I'm pretty sure we've established in the first movie that embarrassment is covered by disgust a couple times in that movie.
Embarrassment is covered by anxiety.
That too. You'd think. There's also envy, which I guess whatever. That's the closest one to not being redundant to another existing emotion in that cast. But like, my favorite part, is that the poster. I don't know if it says in the teaser trailer too, but the poster that they put out says like what was it, like new emotions, like big changes, new emotions, and I see that and I'm like, new emotions? Riley's 13 now in this movie. You're telling me in 13 years she's never once felt at least embarrassed or envious? Those are two very common emotions. I think even especially in like growing kids, like 10 on even at least, for like embarrassed by your parents or envious of things that you don't have. Like, that's such a common thing to not have before you're 13.
I just wanna remember that episode we did way back when where like we talked about how Sandersides is better than Inside Out. Why don't we talk about Sandersides?
Oh my god, let's do that. Sandersides is
Inside Out right now.
I just want to speak this out into the world. I don't know if we're going to do it, but because you reminded me of what the title was of the first episode of that, I hope that when the sequel comes out and we make that episode, I hope we say that Sandersides is still better than Inside Out. I hope that's the title. I mean, I have a little hunch it'll still be true.
I have a feeling we're still gonna agree we're still gonna agree about that. I'm a little, because you're already noticing a continuity error in the fact that
Oh my god, can I say it? Wait, can I say it?
Ways. They're destroying the fucking room.
Oh, that's not even the continuity error I thought you were talking about.
There's two?
Yeah, we talked about this. So there's the continuity error that you mentioned, where they're destroying the damn place to install this new emotion board, despite the fact that at the end of the first one, spoilers of course, but at the end of the first one, they installed it very simply and civilly. Like, they had people come in and install it like normal, and this time they're busting in like crazy. So why? Who knows? But the second continuity error, I know I mentioned this to you before, which is if these emotions end up being, like, if they end up staying, and they end up sticking around, and they're now permanently part of Riley, and, like, operating Riley from this point on, the question becomes, why in the end of the first movie did we see inside the heads of all these people who didn't have these emotions present, especially the ones that are older? Because the parents especially, they're fully grown. And we had some, like, teenagers, but we had the parents who are fully grown, and those emotions are not currently present in those heads. So unless they're just, like, screwing around in the back, but, like, I have a feeling at the end of this next movie that they're all gonna have a place at the table. So if that's the case, then that's a huge continuity error, because we saw inside the heads of that was like the whole end of the first movie, was seeing in the heads of like 5-7 different people, and none of them had any of these new emotions.
I really like Sanders Sides. Have you ever heard of that series?
Thank God I have.
It's a pretty good one, I think.
Man, I just want to make a podcast that is just every episode is 1 minute of Inside Out. I feel like there'll be enough material.
I thought you were about to say, you know what? I want to make a podcast about this Sanders Sides series.
Let's do it. Let's make an episode. Let's make a Sanders Sides podcast. Oh wait. Oh shoot.
No.
When did this happen? It's almost like we literally referenced before that we made this. Wow. Time paradox. Wow. Anyways, I think we've given far too much light to Inside Out now than it deserves, quite honestly. So
I had to rant about that because we talked about that right before we started calling, and I was like, I can't. I can't.
I woke up seeing that, and I was like, oh, me and Amy are gonna have a time talking about this. Because
I'm not okay. The sass, the underlying sass Thomas is throwing in his like on Twitter and on Instagram.
Well,
and
let's not claim anything too big. Let's not go claiming anything too big about what he thinks about the show, the series, of course. But
I know he can't say too much. But the way that he's just kind of like, Virgil's looking a little different. Like
the picture of Virgil looking at this version of anxiety, just like huh? No, I love that picture, and I don't know if it means what I think it means, but I hope it does, because then
we stand Thomas Sanders in this house. Hello.
Yeah, there's a beautiful shot in that teaser where just everyone's looking at anxiety with fear, and I think that's everybody ever seeing that trailer. It's not, but it's definitely the Fanders looking at it. It's definitely me looking at it.
For sure. The amount of Fanders that are going, like,
it's so great. Anyways, let's talk about something that we like, i.e. not Inside Out. Hold on. Let me just retract for a second. I love it. Love is a very, very strong word for what I was about to say. I think Inside Out is not like a terrible franchise. I think that they're a massively misinformed franchise, but I still enjoy a lot of aspects of the movie, of the first movie, anyways.
I'm going to reiterate what I said from before. I think it's a good movie if you're not comparing it to actual mental health.
Yes.
If you are, that's where I get nervous. And the thing is, everybody is going to start comparing it to real mental health because it's about the brain, which frustrates me, because that's why it scares me about anxiety here, because anxiety is the stigma.
Yeah.
You're looking at the stigma on the TV, and I'm like, I don't like this because that's not me.
I think it'd be less scary if there was like multitudes of really good representation of mental health in media right now, because then it would just be a drop in the bucket, and it would be easier to accept it as satire as opposed to like what it is right now, which is one of not that many good representations of mental health in media. And because of that, it's really it's one of the front runners, and Inside Out in that way really acted as one of the front runners of mental health in media, and like at least extensively, for this new generation and what we like to know about with mental health and what we need to know about. So because of that, it feels like instead of being just funny satire that doesn't need to be as accurate as it needs to be, it's absolutely misinforming an entire generation about what mental health is.
That's why I'm pissed.
Yeah, I think that's why we're both as pissed as we are, especially with how deeply we think about mental health and how much it's important to us. And the fact that we both strive to make mental health media of our own that is more accurate.
Fuck.
But that being said, just to end on a more positive note, just so that we don't hate Pixar. Pixar is great. They piss me off sometimes, but they're great. And I still have a lot of fond memories of the first movie and things I like to reference from the first movie. I just want to end on a positive note, because I know we just trashed on it for a little bit.
No, it's fine. It's just, I'm really bothered with the state of the world in the fact that, like, the reason the stigma is so high is because the media makes it so high.
Yeah, and this is not going to help any.
Tone that shit down, and this is only going to make it go up.
Yeah.
That pisses me off. I don't want it to come out. So I'm not really, I respect Pixar, but I don't respect how they're trashing mental health right now. Although I haven't seen the movie, maybe that'll change. I don't know. Maybe it's very possible, but I don't foresee it.
I think like the first one, there's going to be moments where it's more accurate, but the majority is not going to be. Because like even the first one did have some really good moments that I think factored well into anxiety. Into mental health rather.
Yeah. The overarching lesson was good for mental health, but if you're looking at it as like this is how the brain works, I don't like it.
Which is unfortunate because that's exactly what they want you to think, or what it's implying.
Yeah. Something to translate back into Sandersides. The reference that I've been using a lot recently is from the blind box video of Sandersides of Roman being like, "Yeah, I don't want it." So with this Inside Out 2, yeah. I don't want it. I don't want it.
No, put it back from whence it came. We've seen this foretold in the scrolls of that article that we read in that first episode. Remember, we looked at the article and I talked about how those other emotions would be redundant, and here we are. He did exactly the thing I hoped he wouldn't do, but knew he would do.
Oh, it was gonna happen. Yep.
Anyways, let's make me happy. Janus!
Janus is a vibe, and I'm very excited to talk about Janus today.
Oh, I've been waiting for this episode since we started this podcast.
I know you have.
I'm so excited. And ever since this podcast started even, as much as I've been excited for this episode, I've gone through such a transformation of, like, what I know of my relationship with Janus. And, like, now I know that he's one of my favorite characters. Oh my god, you're wearing a Janus shirt.
I am.
Oh my god.
I didn't realize until I put it on today. I just knew I wanted to. There was a part of me, I think it was Roman. Roman was really like in my head being like, I want you to wear the Janus shirt. And I was like, why the fuck am I wearing the Janus? Oh. Yeah. I'm in the podcast today.
I wore my thing special too. This is, for those who can't see, I'm wearing a, for those who can't see, which is everybody because my wires are covering it up, I have an Undertale hoodie of the, for those who know Undertale, as I put my earbud back in, it's the quote of, despite everything, it's still you. I left this on because Janus is the mental health king, and this is a hoodie I specifically bought because I knew that every time I looked in the mirror I could feel this and feel good.
Listen, Janus, oh my gosh. Okay, so to roll into it, obviously all of the information that we're talking about comes from therapy sessions we've had. Mm-hmm. We're not professionals. It also comes from like psychology classes I've taken. I've also looked some stuff up on the internet. We're going to be posting that in the description. Mm-hmm. And this is a very interesting episode because Janus is the first character that wasn't like one of the original four. It was made later after Sandersides took a turn.
Which is like, I guess in that way, Janus is the first character that was like, I don't know how accurate this is going to be in the way that I'm saying it, but I guess the first character that was sort of made intentionally. Well, no, Virgil, I guess, to some extent. Like, not to the same degree, but Janus was the first character that was intentionally made knowing that this series was now a series.
Yes.
I think that is an accurate claim, because Virgil I don't think was in the original, like, his Vine days, like the other sides were represented as such, but Virgil did still come at a time, I think, before he knew how big it was going to be and how extensive it would be. Because that was like really early Sandersides.
Yeah, the jacket itself was bought for Sandersides,
yes, okay,
but it was bought for anxiety within what would become Sandersides. Because at that time, when Virgil was made, it wasn't a series yet. Yeah. It was just kind of, oh, this is kind of a cool one-off thing.
Yeah, that's cool.
It wasn't intended to be a series.
And now it is.
No, it is.
Excuse me, now we love it.
Yeah, I think that's really special about Janus is Janus, not that the other sides didn't have a lot of thought put into them right away, but like Janus had a lot of intention as soon as he joined.
Yeah, whereas the other sides were adapted from previous personas and his other content.
Right.
Or again, made at a time before he knew the thematic relevance of including certain characters. Now, like at this point in the series, it became a very like story-based series, and then he was added with a lot of intention of where that could go.
Yep.
Which is really neat. So, anyways, Amy, what does Janus represent?
So I actually find this question really interesting because, like, the definition of deceit I couldn't find anywhere.
Oh, really?
I found it in Webster's dictionary and stuff, but like every time I tried to look at it through a psychology lens, all I could find was deception, and all I could find was like, I don't remember what the other one was. I guess just lying in general, just a lot about lying, and I was like, oh, interesting. Mm-hmm. So basically, another thing. The what Janus represents isn't really talked about in the series. The only time it's talked about is in Can Lying Be Good when he shows up. Usually, like with the other sides, I've found multiple instances of them talking about what the side represents in different ways throughout the series. Janus was only talked about once. And I looked at like 4 places where Janus is, present. Yeah. And that like it was only in Can Lying Be Good. So the things that I found about deceit.
Wait, hold on. Before you jump into that, I was just going to say, I wonder if the reason that he's been explained less often is because the others, like, were a bit more broad subject, so they felt more need to establish the different facets of them, whereas, like, Janus, a lot of the time, is majority lying, so it's easier to grasp that quicker. Because I think people have a better idea of what lying is versus a broader subject like morality or like just creativity or logic, even anxiety, which again, like is something that's still being learned about. So I guess lying is a lot more straightforward of a thing that needed to be explained less, I guess.
I understand that. And I think with anxiety, it had less because anxiety itself, yes, had more of a concrete definition. But I think I was expecting more because the term deceit is not used in day-to-day life as much. Like, I don't hear the word deceit very often at all.
That's fair.
Outside of Sandersides now, of course I do. But like back then, before Sandersides, I never really knew what that word was or really cared to use it. So the 3 lines that I found that really like defined it, at the end of Can Lying Be Good, deceit, Patton describes deceit as an inner coach that acts with the one intention of self-preservation. And of course, I found a definition of deception, that deception is intentionally misleading others through words, actions, or omissions to create a false perception or belief. It's important to note that there's an intention to deceive. So obviously, combining those 2 things, we're talking about the part of yourself that is hiding things from you intentionally to create a false perception of something good or better about you. Because I think that was what was hard to find, is I don't think there was a lot of talk about this part of yourself that is intentionally hiding things from you. I found a lot about like deception towards other people, and obviously like there's the deception in research, which is a very common thing to talk about in psychology, but because like in research experiments you have to like deceive people sometimes to be able to get an accurate result. But combining those 2, I'm wondering if that was an original I don't think it was an original thought that they had, but like even in the articles that like I was looking at the articles from Can Lying Be Good to try to find things, and there wasn't much about the part of you that just blocks stuff out. So I'm wondering if this is really a discovery into trying to really identify that character that blocks out parts of you.
That is interesting.
So that was really bizarre looking for all this, because like with anxiety, you look up anxiety in psychology and there's like a million articles about it. But this is like, I can't find a damn thing. It's all about lying. And like, that's fair, but like, that wasn't what I was looking for.
No.
So I like the idea that he's an inner coach that acts with the one intention of self-preservation, trying to like protect you. And the idea that like he's lying to you to make you seem like a good person or an honest person or whatever the case, because that's all that Can Lying Be Good at the end talks about. He's just like, oh, you're a good person. Everybody says so. Like trying to hold up your ego from possibly bad or possibly believing, because like, I don't know. I guess I'm not sure about it myself because it's so interesting.
I just like that even as early as the first episode he showed up in, he's being referred to as someone who is doing his best to help Thomas. That's going to be a very common theme that you hear from me in this episode, because I am the world's biggest Janus defender. I will happily proclaim myself as that, despite the fact that I'm not the one in the shirt, but... Yeah.
I'll also say to anyone who's a Roman supporter in the comments, I got your back.
Yeah, there's gonna be a bit of a we're gonna get into some Janus versus Roman stuff later.
Don't listen to this podcast and go, oh shit, they're just gonna talk about Janus and how Janus is the best.
No, yeah, don't worry. There's a defense here. I'm not putting up that defense, but there is a defense. I do love Roman. Don't worry. I'm not gonna sit here and be like Roman's a monster. I
want to put my hand out for those people. Like,
no, it's so bad.
Don't drop it yet. Hold on.
But other than that, I'm a Janus defender. But there's gonna be a lot of me saying things like that because I am the type of person who's like, no, yeah, Janus is literally everything he's ever done is only in an effort to help Thomas, and that's something that I think I'm going to be explaining throughout all the episodes of his appearances, because I don't know how many people are on my side with that. I feel like maybe more than I'm expecting. I think I expect a lot of the fandom to just be immediately like everybody else, like the rest of the sides usually are, like, oh, Scooby-Doo villain, like little evil boy. But like, he really isn't evil at all, kind of, in my opinion. And also kind of factually, so...
Well, we'll get there.
We'll get there.
But another thing, I guess the one thing that I found that was about like internal deception, the Psychology Today, the other definition I found was from Berkeley, and this is from Psychology Today. It says, we may not be outright liars, but we certainly shade the truth to make it fit more comfortably into our lives, to keep it from disrupting anything, from our careers to our relationships to our afternoons. So,
interesting.
Obviously,
the way of saying even shade the truth is an interesting way to say that.
It's really interesting that like the way that it's talked about in Can Lying Be Good, it still kind of alludes to the fact that you're choosing to lie. Mm-hmm. But like some of the lies that you tell in a day-to-day basis aren't bad at all.
Oh,
like for example, if you meet a stranger and that stranger you don't trust right away, you're going to lie to them a little bit.
Of course.
Not that you're like trying to not tell them everything, but like that's what I'm saying. Like you don't have to tell them what you're going to do tonight.
Yeah.
You don't have to tell them what your name is if you don't want to. That's just an omission, but that doesn't mean you're like doing anything bad. So that's why it's interesting to think about how much we shade from ourselves and from other people, because like we don't always think that we're doing it.
Oh yeah, because I know there was a point where I get in my head a lot. I was gonna say sometimes, constantly, but where like I'll start to analyze a part of myself and I'll be like, is this not good? Is this terrible? And there was a portion of time where I had been hearing from people like, oh, lying's terrible. If you lie, you're going to hell. Like, I'm just like, oh, hello, that's Really? Because I do that a lot, I think, but, like, not to harm anybody. So, like, it's not like any of my lies are, like, harmful or with ill intent. And, like, I like the phrasing of this because it does help to distinguish the idea that, you know, lying does not make you a liar. Like, in the sense that, like, you know, just because sometimes you know, quote unquote, shade the truth, or sometimes you find yourself needing or feeling the need to lie, it doesn't make you terrible. Especially, I think what really matters is, again, the intention behind it. Because there's a very big difference between lying to someone to, like, hurt them versus lying to someone just, you know, again, in the sense of, as is mentioned with Janus, of self-preservation.
Right.
So I think it's a very important distinction that, like, lying, and that's something that, you know, the series does try to work with, is that lying doesn't have to be inherently evil. Like, it doesn't have to be a terrible thing. It can be done in ways that, like, even like, the examples that we see, like, I think there are arguments to be made for, as we'll get to. But,
it's next to impossible to avoid it.
Yeah, like, it's gonna come up at some point, even just to spare people's feelings. Like, if you get a gift from somebody that maybe you don't absolutely love, and then, like if someone gives you, like, a shirt, and you're like, I don't really love that shirt, but you're not just gonna, like, look at them who just got you a fun gift and be like, I hate it. Like, it's terrible. I'm not gonna wear this ever. You're gonna be like, oh my god, thank you so much. I love that you got this for me. Like,
Hey, Tech Girl, about that, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
I literally saw you smile and I was like, if you think I'm talking about the project, I will burn you at the stakes. I will burn you at the stakes. I loved every second of what you made for me. You saw me cry multiple times from it.
No.
You dork.
No, I was just kidding.
No, I know.
So, no, I think to clarify, if you haven't seen my YouTube page, I posted my massive Blue's Clues project that was a gift to Tech Real. So amazing. Go check that out. I haven't done that yet. That's what we're referencing right now.
There are cameos.
There's cameos, and it's
I'm not going to say who from, but there are cameos.
It's a secret.
I literally almost said one of the people who was in it, and I was like, huh. And I didn't do it.
Over one of the people I put in there.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. Because that one I had no inkling that we were going to ever. Words. Yep. I'm flustered thinking about it right now.
But we got to keep going.
We do.
Because we
spend so much time talking about Inside Out.
No, it's great. But so the other two things I have about Who Deceit is, I have Logan talking about, like, what Deceit's power is. And he said that you place distance between who you are and the lies that you tell. He's responsible for you doing so. And then also he said, he's trying to, the things that you want to believe is where his power comes from. The things you want to believe, things that you wish were true, and then things you wish weren't. So, like, he's the part of you that's trying to, like, make sure you believe the best about yourself to an extent. So.
I like it.
It's so complicated,
Janus
and it's so
beautiful. Janus is my hero.
Complicatedly beautiful.
Oh my god.
So we're gonna walk through the episodes, and that Janus is in, and listen, some of these episodes I haven't seen in a long, long time, and boy, howdy, coming back to them, these are stellar episodes that Janus is in.
Of course, they have Janus. No, I think it just so happens that, like, the Janus episodes are, like, just a lot of the really good episodes. And not to say that the other episodes aren't good, but I just think that, like, these episodes are quite especially good, these ones that include Janus.
You can tell... Sorry, I didn't interrupt.
No, you didn't. You literally didn't at all. That was the end of my sentence.
Oh, there you go.
You're perfect.
Correct. What am I saying? You can tell that the Janus episodes, not that the others weren't made with care, but they were really made with care because of the deception that was built in. Yeah. Like, his reveal was insane.
I mean, honestly, that starts us out with our first one, Can Lying Be Good?
I know. Literally, like, we're getting into it, like...
Let's start with the end. I guess that's the point where Janus shows up, so that's the most important bit.
I mean, I've said this before on the podcast, but, like, I watched that episode for the first time, and definitely had a few moments where I looked at Patton and went, huh? And went, that was bad writing, but okay.
I always find it funny.
Because I remember calling it out as bad writing because I remember sitting there going, that was really weird. Yeah. Why would you do that? Okay. And then I just kind of brushed it off because I wanted to finish the episode before I made a final judgment.
Yeah.
But I remember going like, no. And now looking back on it, I'm like, it's really obvious.
You know what's the best part? I didn't have a damn clue. Not a ding-dong Scooby. I didn't have a single inkling that there was anything wrong until it happened.
That's so fair, though. But, like, I say it's really obvious in the way that, like, they had so many flags set up for you.
Oh, yeah, no. In the rewatch, I remember you told me, like, once we had started talking about episodes for the first time, you had talked about, like, that big drop of Janus and how you saw all these signs, and I was like, really? I didn't catch any of them. And then I rewatched the episode and I was like, oh, it is blindingly obvious once you know the context. Because, wow.
There's so many moments. And, like, for example, because if you haven't noticed this, please go back and watch Can Lying Be Good. Mm-hmm. And there are
even
spoilers
if you have noticed it, please go back and watch Can Lying Be Good. It's a great episode.
Yeah. But, like, there are spoilers ahead, duh. But,
Sander signs?
Oh, Sander signs?
Wow, I know we've never done that before.
Anyway, just in case. But like one of the ones that I remember attributing to bad writing, because I don't believe this now, obviously, but like was the one where he's just like, "Oh, please," right? You know how I love cartoons.
Like, I loved that moment.
Just know how I love cartoons. I was sitting there like, Patton, what the fuck? Of course we know that. Chill out, man. What the fuck?
But I remember I saw that and I was like, that's some shit I'd say. So I was like, that works.
I remember being like, he never calls that shit out. What the fuck? That and the friendo line. The friendo line was placed in such a pretty way. I don't remember exactly. Maybe it was the buddy. I think it was the buddy I'm talking about. Like right at the end when he goes, Virgil, buddy. He never says anything except kiddo. He never says anything except kiddo, but he says friendo and he says buddy in that episode. Mm-hmm. And kiddo is not mentioned at all. So like when he looks at Virgil and goes, Virgil, buddy, the music changes a little bit. And Virgil's like immediately standoffish. And it's like really obvious to me. But like, I'm glad they made it that way because like they wanted you to be suspicious along with the sides. Mm-hmm. I think it was really well done.
Oh my God. And then we get Genesis reveal, which I mean like, as much as I will defend him, big Scooby-Doo villain energy. That was some, if I would have gotten away with it if it weren't for you meddling kids, energy.
Yeah.
The fact that he had a whole theme song and the lighting, and you're like, Mm-hmm. So, I mean, like, I see where people are coming from, where they're like, spooky bitch. But also, shut up. No.
I don't know. I feel like Janus, it's weird because, like, in that first episode, I almost wish I knew the behind the scenes because like Janus seems a little flatter than he becomes and that might be because obviously he changes over time but like he definitely was a bit more like it did seem like that everything he said was a lie.
Oh yeah, no, it definitely was. He definitely was very strongly, you know, very like that villain energy. I mean, honestly, it reminds me a lot of Virgil's beginnings, how he was very like flat, like villainy type until he sort of like started hitting a turning point. And I think that's probably what the same thing is happening with Janus, which is that he came in like a villain, but the more he started working with them, especially like as we see later, like some start to at least accept his ideas a little bit more, he starts being able to stop coming in as a villain and start actually being heard. It honestly could even just be that, like, he felt like the beginning, especially, like, with an episode like this, the deception, like, the full-on deception wasn't really working the way he needed it to, like, the villain energy, so he was like, no, now we need to start doing this different, because I'm not being listened to.
No, I show myself, yeah. That energy. So, what would you...
I'm shaking my camera. for the people who are, like, watching the audio version, the video version, they're like, whoa.
They're getting dizzy.
Whoa. Anyways, sorry, yes. I didn't know if you were about to move on to the next episode, and I was like, wait!
Not yet, no.
Okay, cool.
I was just going to say, like, it's going to be interesting dancing around Janus's intentions, because I know we have a lot of theory around that, but there's also some things that have been revealed and are pretty clear at this point.
Yeah.
Do you think that changed at all throughout the series, or do you think that like started here in the same vein? I don't know what
I'm not entirely sure what your question is. His intentions?
I don't know. Like, I think because the character's so different in that first episode.
Oh yeah, I have no idea about that. Where I start getting into what I think Janus's... Oh wait, well Janus's intentions in this episode... Okay, sorry, I'm getting all turned around. I'm thinking of like different points where I'm like, that's what his intentions are, but like different angles of his intentions.
Right, you see what I mean though?
No.
Okay, well... So, I guess what I'm saying, you have an idea of what Janus's intentions are.
Yes.
Because you're a big fan and you're interested.
Oh, you're asking what my thoughts are on his intentions in this episode? Or?
In this episode, and did they change in future episodes?
No. I don't think so.
Okay.
Because...
Okay.
Janus's intention in this episode, and this is going to be the first of many times you hear me say this throughout the rest of this episode, as I already have, is to help Thomas. Because... Oh, I thought you were being serious. I was like, what? We talked about this. What are you talking about?
This is like the peak of our friendship right there. That type of moment. Anyway.
I'm the layman. Anyways, no, because I feel like, again, people see Janus, or some people, I don't want to make a claim on how many of the fanders believe this, but a lot of people see Janus as an evil little bitch. And, like, just sort of see him as coming in, almost like Remus, I feel like some people's perceptions might be, of him coming in and wrecking shop and just be like, I'm here to mess with you a little bit. But, like, even in his first appearance in this episode, his intention was specifically only to help Thomas get out of an awkward, painful friend situation. Because the whole crux of this episode was that he was worried what Joan would think because he missed their play, or their show, or whatever they were doing. And Janus just wanted to help, coach them into a way of, telling Joan something that would satisfy them without getting Thomas in a sticky spot. And obviously, lying is not the best, but also his intention here was to help protect Thomas. He's always trying to help protect Thomas, and we'll see that as we go. But that's the crux of his whole thing, and I think that sticks throughout, and we'll continue seeing that. You have something to say, so what's up?
I'm wanting to add: are those intentions are his actions always moral?
No,
not quite.
Well,
but
I think they're not always moral. I think that's the thing about Janus. I can defend him so far, but as much as I think his intentions are good, his desired actions are not always ideal.
Right.
But even then, I think in certain ways there's ways to justify certain things. I think for a situation like Can Lying Be Good, I felt like I was kind of on Janus's side a little bit because it's a lesser situation. SVS is where things get a little bit sticky, but even then, like, there's argument to be made. But like, I think his methods are not perfect. But I don't think even then they're inherently negative, bad, or evil. I just think they're not fully ideal. But his intentions are always good. Is definitely where I come from with Janus.
Yeah.
And again, where I say I come from with him, as if that's like purely an opinion. I think that's fairly fact. But like,
no,
that's me.
I agree, because I think that's where I've seen a lot of people, because there's a lot of people I've talked to who just absolutely hate Janus.
That's fascinating to me.
Well, the reason that I've understood that is because he's very manipulative. And with that comes a very dark, like there's some darkness in reality associated with manipulation.
Of course.
In day-to-day life. But like, so I think it's that projection of that manipulation from with that being the danger there. Yeah. But like at the same time, Janus is an interesting case because yes, he's doing it with good intention and to fight for mental health. Mm-hmm. So I think that kind of plays into the idea that he's not necessarily human. He's not doing it for selfish intent. He's doing it for Thomas's intent.
Yeah, and even his manipulation is not always like even like something like the tactic of his disguising. Like, people can see that as manipulation because he's using other people's faces and identities in order to try to essentially trick you into doing something to help protect yourself. But even that manipulation is not inherently done specifically with, like, negative intent or because he wants to, like, you know, trick you into doing something bad. He's doing it because you're not going to listen to him any other way. My take on that is that he's trying to disguise himself as whoever at that time Thomas sees in the highest light, or like listens to the most. And I think that's very important. That's why he started with Patton, but later on he went over to Logan, because he was listening to Logan more for a while. And that's I think he listened to that, and that's why, like, theory mode. And I don't know how much, I don't know if I've ever said this, but like, I think the next person that he's going to disguise as is Virgil. Because I think he holds Virgil in a much higher light now as well, in terms of how much he's willing to listen to Virgil. So I think Janus might use that as well. Like, that seems like the next logical step as to who he disguises as in order to be heard. Mm-hmm. Assuming he even has reason to disguise at this point, because he's already being listened to a bit more. But I think the 5-year anniversary definitely alluded to the idea that he's not done disguising.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he definitely had that moment. He's getting better at it, exactly, yeah.
Well, like, the flags aren't going to be as obvious from here on.
So that's interesting. It's going to be... That's where I think he's going with next with that. But yeah, my point being, though, he does that to be listened to, is what I think. Because if he didn't do that, as we've seen, people are not nearly as willing to hear him out.
And the thing is, that's how a lot of people in day-to-day life behave, because they want to be listened to in that way, and that technique works, unfortunately. But with Janus, it's just interesting because he's not doing it with selfish intent. He's doing it with the intent to actually
altruistic
help.
Intent, really.
Altruistic intent, really. Yeah. I mean, technically it's selfish to an extent, but like...
It's selfish in the sense that he wants to be listened to and he wants to push what he thinks is right. But also what he thinks is right is... I mean, I'm not going to say it's right necessarily fully 100% of the time, but it's right in the sense that he's trying to help Thomas with his mental health, which, you know, character Thomas is not fully focusing on as best as he could in a lot of instances.
Right.
So in that way, it's very, like, altruistic, as opposed to selfish. Look at me using altruism as like a look at this podcast and Sanders Sides affecting my vocabulary. It's on my flashcard. It's on my flash. It's blank, but it's a flashcard.
That's no falsehood. Anyway, okay, so we're
I couldn't tell if you were laughing or choking on that joke.
Both.
Okay, cool.
Both. So yes.
Oh my god. Should we move on to the next episode?
Yes.
Oh my god.
So SVS is where Janus comes back. He disguised himself as Logan.
Very unsuccessfully.
Nah, that wasn't very good. Yeah.
It's honestly a step down from where Patton was, because he at least got Patton's outfit correct. Actually, I mean, I guess in theory, like, he got it right, because, like, it was still Logan's original outfit.
Sure, but, like, Patton's also was the original hood, or...
Well, that's what I'm saying. It isn't a step down, because he just went with the classic outfit again. He just didn't know that everyone changed theirs. Isn't that interesting to think, actually, now that I think about it? Like, it's obvious when you think about it, but Janus and Remus are the only sides who haven't had a costume change yet. I haven't thought about that until this exact moment. Everyone else has had a full-on costume change, or a costume update, and they're the only ones who haven't had, like, a full-on update.
That's gonna change.
I know, I'm sure they are. Like, I think we've heard that there's gonna be some sort of change in the future. I'm excited to see it. People are really rooting for round glasses Patton, which I don't disagree with.
Yeah, he's going to change the glasses for Logan and Patton.
Well, I wonder... Oh, man, interesting. I really hadn't thought about the fact that we haven't had a costume change for Janus and Remus yet. Which makes sense, because by the time they came around, the outfits, I believe, had already changed, like, fully. Like that. So they were already, like, updated compared to where the originals were. Interesting. I don't know, that's not even relevant to this conversation at all, but I didn't think about that. Weird. Anyways... Janus.
Anyways, we love it. Listen, SVS, I'm going to argue, is one of the better episodes in Sanders Sides.
Oh, yeah.
It really is, just because of how you can see every relationship that Janus has with each side. And it just, I think there's a lot to, I mean, you just hear directly what Janus is fighting for.
Oh, yeah.
And you start to see, I think the first episode, it wasn't as clear what his intentions were, but with this one, like, it's so blatantly obvious that he wants to protect Thomas and help or give him what he wants. Allow him to, like, do the things that he wants to do. I'm always and forever going to be on team callback because he really should have talked to him and figured out how to move forward.
Yeah.
That drove me nuts the first time I saw that episode because I remember having an entire like long conversation with my roommate after we watched it together and just went, bro, why didn't he talk to them?
Yeah.
Why was that the decision?
I mean, they tackled that track in the episode, I believe, or they either said that in that or putting on us first. They didn't want. The idea was they didn't want to, or he didn't want to. What was it? By talking to them about it, they might go through with it just because they feel bad, as opposed to actually, like, they might feel sad about it, secretly at that point. And then, like, they feel bad, but, like, then they're gonna pretend like it's okay, even if it's not.
But then, okay, that's fair. And I remember, I mean, I know that's said in Putting Others First.
Yeah.
In my mind, once you ask that person, it is on them to respond the way that they need to in that situation. So if they really wanted Thomas there and they were sad about it, they would mention that they're sad about it. They could say, hey, I would still really appreciate you being there. That's on them to bring that up from there. If they hide that and don't say anything, that's not on Thomas anymore.
Yeah, I'll bring up the Liza May Minnelli situation, though, because that also is a point where it's like, it's really hard to just not say it's okay, even if you would be crushed.
But, like, that's the thing. Liza May Minnelli lied to him.
I gotta say the full name, too.
Because you lied. There was a lie there. Whereas if you said to the person, you said, hey, I would love to be at your wedding. I would love to be there. And I have this big callback. I wanted to talk to you about this and make a decision together so that you were included in this decision. That would mean way more than anything else.
See, my anxiety goes crazy thinking about that type of stuff. I have, like, anxiety and social anxiety, so I'm like, ugh.
It's better than sitting at the wedding and forcing yourself to be there. Yeah. It's better than going to the callback and lying and manipulating your way out of it. And it's better than going to the callback and not saying anything and just ghosting them.
This is a good point.
He should have talked to him. Communication is the best thing that you can do. So that's what Janus was trying to fight for.
Yeah.
Because Thomas wanted to go so bad.
Yeah, and Janus's argument in this episode, I think, is especially poignant. Because obviously he hadn't had much screen time before it, but this is the first instance of Janus, like, even though he disguised it at the beginning of the episode, it's the first instance of Janus really spending the episode out of disguise and fighting for a point himself. And I think that means a lot, because it's him being like, I'm not, like, you know what, screw hiding behind it, it didn't work. I'm going to tell you face to face that I think you shouldn't be doing this.
That and his logic is sound.
Oh, his logic is beautifully sound. Even as, like, crazy as, like, his explanation is later, and Virgil's like, what the hell does this have to do with anything? Like, the whole society talk, and the whole, like, illusions of what a society means, and, like, what it's, like, what was the line he said? Like, I don't want Thomas to, like, yeah, you say the line. You know it better than I do.
I do. I know the line. Anyway.
You do.
No, I was about to include that in what he represents, because it was such a poignant moment.
Yeah.
But the line is, I don't want Thomas to be disadvantaged in a world where you could die for not following the laws made in the name of a lie.
Yeah. As extra as that explanation is, it is a very sound argument.
It's such a sound argument.
It's like, you can't argue with that.
I mean, that's the thing. I hate the conclusion that they draw in that episode.
Because they show you exactly why you shouldn't do the thing. And then they do the thing.
Patton's like, I think you're doing the right thing here, Thomas. And I think Patton, you should shut up.
Yeah.
I think you're wrong.
But to clarify, I think I do want to clarify something, even though I'm sure we're fine. But I want to clarify that just because we think that character Thomas made the wrong decision doesn't mean we think it was, like, badly written.
No.
Yeah, exactly.
No.
I could hear like people like seeing it that way because we're like sitting here like it was wrong. It was a bad decision, and I feel like people are gonna be like, oh, so you think that his writing is bad? Like, no, we just like he himself thought that decision was bad, so we're good.
It's brilliant.
Oh, it's brilliant
because it started conversations. Mm-hmm. It started the conversation about it because I remember just being torn at the end of that episode going, why would that be the decision they made? Mm-hmm. I did not expect that at all. I literally had like a 2-hour conversation with my roommate after
I fully expected it. Like, I knew he was going to go to that wedding. Because I'm a socially anxious son of a bitch. And I know how it is when you think that you want to do something and you're like, I could do this thing, or I could do the thing that's going to, like, preserve, you know, like, social standards and stuff. And even if you want to do the other thing, naturally, more often than not, you're going to end up choosing the thing that feels safer, quote-unquote, rather than the thing that benefits you.
Right. And I would say that that's why this episode is brilliant.
Exactly.
Because they made that choice. Because that's how people normally would.
Yeah, they made that choice fully informed. And even though they had all the evidence that you shouldn't do it, your natural inclination is still to do the thing that benefits others rather than yourself because you don't want to be selfish, even if it makes so much more sense to do the selfish thing. So it makes a lot of sense why he would make that decision in that moment. So, like, it feels so natural as, like, a progression. As jarring as it is to see him make that decision, it is just how those decisions tend to go. And the fact that the next episode really delves into him, you know, in anguish over having made that decision and realizing that was not the way to go. I love that. Mm-hmm. I love that it shows that, like, it's one of those things that, like, you're so predisposed in media to see, especially with choices like this, to be like, oh, he made the morally correct choice, and then everything worked out and everything's good. I like how in this one, he made the morally correct choice and he felt like shit. I love that. That's so real.
That's so real. It's so clever, and like it doesn't feel like a story anymore. Yeah. It feels like life. It feels really real, and I'm so happy with how they did that. So with that episode, it built up Janus's drive to get Thomas to respect his own needs and his own wants and desires, and then it bent Roman in the sense of Janus is bad. Immediately. Like that, he realized, because as I said in the last one, but I'm going to reiterate it here, Roman recognized that he was fighting for what Janus wanted. And because of that, because Janus is the bad guy, and he was always seen as the bad guy and the villain.
Yeah, even though he isn't. Wink, wink.
Well, yeah, but like Roman started to turn in SBS because he was like, "Oh shit, you're the bad guy." So that's where that clash started to happen because Janus was being very flirtatious with Roman. Flirtatious.
Platonically flirtatious.
Platonically. Yeah, he was being very, very nice.
Don't be 90% of the fandom, please. Listen, I love this fandom, but don't be that part. Not in this moment. I don't do Roseat. I'm sorry.
No, yeah, we'll go into those soon.
Oh yeah, but, I think we have an episode lined up about that. It's like subject of shipping. We'll get into it.
But I will say that Janus was very manipulative towards Roman and trying to get Roman to stay on his side.
Yeah, very complimentary. There's a word. What's the word? There's a word for it. Not complimentary, but there's like a word for like trying to get someone on your like he was buttering him up.
Yeah, pretty much. But yeah, it was very...
Sorry. Sorry, we were talking about the shipping, and I said buttering him up, and my Remus brain went, there's probably a fanfiction out there somewhere.
Damn.
I'm sorry. I know next episode is Remus, but it slipped in.
I mean, we're preparing. It makes sense that Remus would bleed into the episodes around it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would make sense. So anyway, but yeah, no... Janus started to get more determined, and so in getting more determined, he sent Remus.
Yeah. Oh wait. One more thing I want to say about SBS, real fast. That was a beautiful segue, and I hate to ruin it. I just wanted to say that because I outlined the Janus's intention in lying be good. This is another instance of his intention just being purely to help Thomas. As much as he's like against Thomas in this way of he's like prosecuting against him, his point is trying to make Thomas not do something that one, he doesn't want to do, but two, that is only going to negatively affect him mentally. And I'm just building my case of like Janus is the hero boy. Yeah. He's only trying to help. He has some methods that are less than savory, but he's doing his best to help get Thomas in a place that Thomas can feel good, even if the methods are not something that everyone finds desirable.
Yeah, there's a line ringing in my head that he said that, because I just recently watched like pieces of SBS again, and the line is, what was it?
Is it no?
No.
Sorry.
Not quite.
It's the one I always think
no,
of.
I'm thinking of the wording. I think he was saying like, this dilemma is between something that serves him versus something else that serves him, between looking and feeling like a good friend and a dream come true.
Yeah.
If you want, like, I don't remember the wording specifically, but it's just like, if you want to have good friendships over the role of a lifetime, well, then I'm all for that. But I just don't buy it.
I love that line because it shows that Janus only wants Thomas to be happy. He's just trying to prove that Thomas is lying to himself about what he wants.
He literally admitted in that line that if Thomas wants to be a good friend more than he wants to be... Oh, I literally just said it. If Thomas wanted to be a good friend more than he wanted the role of a lifetime, well, then I'm all for that. That's the line.
Oh,
so,
my God.
Oh, it's so good. It's so good because he's doing a lot of manipulative things, but he's getting to the heart of it, and it's pretty as shit.
For people who couldn't see me in the audio version, I was like stimming at the idea that he said that. I was just like sitting here like, oh my God.
I mean, literally,
I love that
the
line.
way that like, I mean, I've watched SBS so many times that like I've memorized it mostly, but like the way that I keep going back to episodes with Janus and freaking out again because of how pointed and sure Janus is about mental health and how hard he fights for it. It's so cool.
Yeah.
Maybe getting close to the top of me, honestly. I really love Janus. And I love Virgil and Janus together. That's my favorite relationship in the whole series.
I just had a thought. There's one more thing before we get to do it. But I just had a thought of the phrase fake it till you make it. And I wonder if Janus is Thomas internally, like not being good at mental health, and Janus is forcibly trying to fake it till he makes it. It's a side of Thomas who's really just trying to force his way into like feeling that mental health vibe until it's true. Here's
the deal. I think that's true in mental health, period.
Oh no, in general, yeah. But I'm saying, I just like the idea that might be like why that would really further explain why Janus is the mental health boy, because he's trying to get Thomas like into like he's faking it till he makes it. He's trying to force it on Thomas, believing that he's the mental health boy until Thomas can actually start doing it himself. I love that. As if I didn't love Janus enough.
Honestly,
oh my God.
Like that. I mean, arguably part of the ways that you learn to like, for example, learning to accept Virgil, the anxiety part of you. Yeah, you're going to have moments where you absolutely fucking despise him. Mm-hmm. But then you have to keep lying to yourself in a way and making that effort, pushing past what you would normally do and pretend to like him so that he feels that love. And then you will both start to like coincide kind of thing. Like that's very important in mental health, because you have to like go against what you would normally do. You have to lie to an extent.
Gosh, my favorite like moments of like realizing things about this about like the show is on this podcast. Like I feel like we have so many like of those like revelation moments. I just want to take a moment to say curse you, Link Neal, for ruining that word for me many episodes ago on Good Mythical Morning. I hate you. I love you, Link Neal, but I hate you for that. Link's great. Anyways, my favorite revelations are on the show, of just like those moments of like, whoa, I didn't think about that until I was talking about it on the podcast. Yep. But speaking of fake it till you make it, that's also in Duet. That segue started great, and then I was just like, I don't know how to finish that sentence, so do it.
So, I think it's just important to recognize that Remus came because Janus needed Thomas to kind of break a little bit.
Yeah.
And so Janus kind of kicked Remus into the frame.
Yeah.
And this is confirmed in the song Forbidden Fruit, when he's like, literally has Janus right there being like, you're wanting to be more honest and direct dealing with your issues. No longer will you deceive yourself about the ugliness within you.
It's literally like, Janus being like, here, face your dang issues. Stop repressing them. Stop repressing Remus. Stop repressing it all. Remus was born from repression. Remus was born from repression. Oh my god.
Whoa.
Never put that one together.
Listen, we love Janus on this podcast.
Remus was born from repression, and Janus is just trying to undo that repression.
Put a pin in that for next week. Pin that. Pin that-ish. Pin that-ish?
Sorry, my astonishment can't be pinned, but the subject can be.
It's okay. No, the subject can be pinned. We'll come back. But yeah, so he's not directly in dealing with intrusive thoughts, but Janus definitely did that with the intention of breaking Thomas a little more.
Yeah.
Which caused all the other issues we've talked about, like Virgil being a little more distant with Patton, or really more distant with Patton, and then like Thomas being afraid of, or kind of like being afraid of Remus and having to like cope and learn how to process Remus, and then also like, it just kind of, that's where dealing with intrusive thoughts is kind of where everything kind of spilled out, and it's starting to continue to spill out at this point.
Yeah, and I feel like that decision that he made with throwing Remus out is like, again, something that people can really see and be like, oh, he's a villain. He sent Remus out. But like, again, he sent Remus out because Thomas was repressing him and because he needed to face that rather than just keep shoving that off to the side and not think about it. And the episode of DeWitt proved exactly why Thomas needed to see Remus. So again, this was just another instance of Janus trying to help Thomas by helping him to face his issues.
I would also
argue Janus helping. He's a good boy.
And I think it's interesting too, because we've talked about this. I think because Janus has tried to verbally discuss and has tried to get his words out and tried to do all that stuff. Well, okay, I guess we'll talk about that in a second now that I think about it, because putting others first, he's still trying to verbally talk about stuff. I was going to talk about how Janus is like breaking Thomas down a little bit so that Thomas can see what he's talking about.
Okay. I mean, I think that's still pretty poignant for a DeWitt, more so than putting others first.
Yeah.
Because putting others first, he isn't really breaking Thomas down as much as he's... I mean, no, he's not. He really just sort of jumped in thereafter. I wouldn't count that as him breaking Thomas down.
Yeah, I guess what I'm trying to get around to is like some of the harder lessons in life are learned from the darker places and the harder places. And I think there are times where Janus, like, although, I don't know if I'm phrasing this right, but like, it's interesting.
I guess you can't face what you don't know.
And I think that's why he was seemingly throwing something dangerous at Thomas, but like showing Thomas that he can get through those things.
Yeah. It just needed to be done. It's like a facing your fears thing, in that you just sort of need to do it sometimes. Not always, but especially when the fear is within your own mind and isn't going away anytime soon, if ever. Like, you need to face that, or else, again, it's just repression.
It's just repression. So, yeah, Janus is...
He's a good boy.
Well, he's very good.
He's so good. I'm so mad about it for no reason, but he's so good. I just want to be so proving that he's so good. My boy.
So interesting lens of mental health, because like, I think what I'm having trouble with here is I'm not trying to say that Thomas should suffer to get to his goal, is what I'm
He shouldn't
feel
have
like
to
I'm
suffer to get to his goal.
Yeah, like I guess the fact that Janus sent Remus feels like I don't know. I'm trying to.
Be playing devil's advocate, trying to say Janus is a bad thing.
I can see the dangerous thing we're talking about, so I'm trying to like make sure I'm not.
True, you shouldn't have to suffer when getting to your goals, but also when it comes to things like mental health and things like disorders or things like darker parts of yourself, as much as you don't want to have to go through something that's going to make you suffer, you also are going to be worse off if you don't just deal with it.
You have to look at it.
Yeah.
So this isn't okay. That's what I'm trying to say.
You don't need to embrace
so
it as much as you need to at least look at it and be aware enough to know how to work with it.
Yes. So I think that's what I'm saying. Like, there are some instances where like bad things happen in real life. I'm not saying that in order for Thomas to be a good person, those things had to happen.
No.
What I'm saying is because it's a darker part of you, you have to like, it's different than that.
Yeah. It's not a requirement for him to be a good person, but it's a requirement for him to feel better about himself. Because that's like repressing something like Remus, and those thoughts of yourself and blaming that on yourself and sort of putting that on you in the sense that you're thinking that it's your fault, that you're a bad person, is only going to cause bigger insecurities and bigger, issues with the way you see yourself. So it's... Could people stop throwing trash out? So people... Sorry, there's trash happening out there. So, what was I saying? So people don't need to look at that type of stuff to be good and put good out into the world. But it helps in seeing yourself in a better light. And it helps to work on those insecurities, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Neat.
Funky.
Well, while the trash finishes back there, apparently, shall we delve into a Mind Palace moment?
Well, sure.
Hey, Janice.
What?
Have you seen Logan's instrument?
No, I don't know where.
Are you sure, kiddo?
No, I actually genuinely don't know where Logan's instrument things are. I don't even know what he plays.
Well, he plays a crofter's jar, because, it's Logan. So
a crofter's jar?
Yeah.
That's not ridiculous at all.
I just thought maybe you saw it because you've been
I'm
taking...
working. I'm not even... I didn't even know it was filming. I'm being genuine right now.
I didn't mean to be
accusatory.
accusatory.
I had no idea
kiddo.
that we were doing this. I had no...
Are you sure, kiddo?
No, I genuinely didn't take it this time.
There it is, the pencil right there. You got it.
He uses a pencil.
Well, yeah, to tap on the jar. Can I have it?
I should not be held responsible for that. I did not know
Thank you.
that was...
I'll get this back to Logan.
Unbelievable. Even when I'm not doing anything. Apparently I'm involved in everything. Yay. Jan is out.
And that was a
moment.
Anyways, if there's something we learned today, is that my point is proven that people blame Janus even when there's nothing to blame him for. He didn't do anything wrong. He didn't do anything wrong. He accidentally took a pencil. He don't you even start with me. What were you gonna say?
Not the don't you even start with me. Oh my god, that was great going into this thing. Oh my god, that's funny.
I pride myself on my deliveries.
Don't you start with me. Anyway,
but it isn't delivery, by the way. It's DiGiorno.
Oh my god.
I have to say it every time I say the delivery's line. Every time I talk about delivery, I need to talk about DiGiorno. They make good pizza, not sponsored. Anyways, Janus, let's get on to an interesting subject, because I know we have some interesting things to talk about in this one. Putting others first. Which is, there's a siren outside. There's a lot of noise going on outside today, and I think they're coming for you, because soon, after I defend my side, you will be in the burn unit. Damn. He says to his own epic joke.
That's not in the episode, my guy.
What?
the sirens aren't in the episode. You said we were going to talk about things and putting others first, and then you were like, there's a siren outside.
Maybe this is a one-person podcast.
I think we both tried to build jokes at the same time, and then it really just...
I couldn't think of anything, so I was just like, maybe I need to do this alone.
I respected your joke, I will say. I heard it, and I had to just be like, sirens aren't in the episode, bro. I had to, like, add that, but, like, and burns aren't in the episode.
No, I mean, there is a burn, actually.
Pretty big burn,
actually. A really decent burn.
That's a nice transition.
There's actually a couple of burns in this one. There's a burn unit nearby, I hope.
So, I will say that you and I, in Putting Others First, have debated when Janus appears.
Yes, because it is a bit confusing as to whether Logan at the beginning is Logan, or if he's Janus the whole time. You know what the best part is? I don't remember what my stance was. I think
I convinced you. I think I convinced you of mine.
What was your stance?
Because my stance was the fact that Logan appears at the beginning, and then as soon as Patton hits the skip all button that's yellow, that's when Logan gets pulled out and Janus puts himself in.
Oh, yes. I remember. I do have a different opinion on this, because I think before the Kane thing happened, there was a... Were you still laughing at the fact that I forgot my stance?
No, yeah.
I didn't remember where that moment happened, so I didn't remember what the point of my stance was. It's been a long time since we've had that specific debate. But what I remember is that before the Kane bit, there is a moment where Logan is reading out part of an article, or it's a quote from somebody else. And he is not only doing an accent, but also his sprite, because he's in 8-bit form at that time, transforms to be like basically cosplaying the person in question, Friedrich Nietzsche. And Nietzsche?
Nietzsche.
I heard myself say it, and I was like, if that's wrong, someone will correct me. And lo and behold, I was right. Friedrich Nietzsche. And I found that, in retrospect, I found that strange the moment I saw that when I first saw the episode. I was like, that's very weird. So I find it easy to believe that was Janus the whole time, because that happened before the Kane bit that you're saying is the beginning of the Janus bit, and that is a moment where Logan, quote-unquote, is disguised as somebody else, doing an impression, which is kind of Janus's shtick, and Logan really doesn't do. The closest he's ever been is Sherlock, but Sherlock is a comfort character for Logan that he doesn't do really a voice for, and even the cosplay for him there is like a real rarity. I feel like this is a different level of commitment that Logan does not typically show, especially when just referring to people in history and people's like quoting people. He's never quoted someone and done a voice like this before. Like, that was a new thing for Logan. If it's not Janus, then that was a really strange choice for Logan today. That's my argument for that, because that feels too weirdly specific in an episode that does have Janus in it.
Let us know in the comments what you think, because, like, I know my argument for that was he eats jam, and that doesn't have much logical stance. And, like, all the other stuff that he does, so why would this be any different than something he would do if he's really interested in Friedrich Nietzsche's perspectives? And also, he's an 8-bit right now. And he's an 8-bit right now, which is a very different form than just his human form. And also, it looks like a cool effect that Thomas probably just wanted to add into the video.
Well, in terms of him having the ability to do that, he has no more ability to do that in this moment, Logan, than he would in any other moment, because he always has the ability to change his outfit at any point. And additionally, why it feels different for this as opposed to the jam is because this one is so intrinsically connected to a character who, fun fact, shows up in this episode later as a twist villain. So it feels like that specifically is so close to what Janus already does in an episode where he does show up that it feels too connected to not be it. Although I still see where you're coming from with the Kane dragging him away, because that is definitely Janus's Kane, and that does seem like a perfect moment for, like, the swap. But I just find that because that cosplay moment was before, I find that strange.
I think Logan is full of surprises.
I don't think he's as full of surprises as you think he is. Not those types of surprises. The biggest surprise with Logan is a unicorn onesie.
That's still a surprise.
Not
that
nearly
really
as a
was...
surprise as him doing the accent of a guy he's quoting. He's never done that.
Yeah.
Unless it just so happens that everyone he's ever quoted before that has never had an accent for him to imitate, and also he's never quoted Friedrich Nietzsche before.
He's never quoted Friedrich Nietzsche before.
Damn it. Janet.
No, I know that because Friedrich Nietzsche was somebody I talked about in psych classes before he mentioned Friedrich Nietzsche in my...
I still hold true to my point there. I still think it's very possible.
Well, that's kind of a side debate that I know we've had, and I thought it was interesting to project that because
a side debate, quite literally. Ah, because the sides.
But I know this whole thing is mostly based off of us and our conversations that are deeper about Sanderside. So that's something we've talked about, but we got to get into the plot of putting others first and how Janus was really important in showing up in that episode and then helping. I mean, it's the first time we see Patton kind of go, oh, Janus is right.
Which I love.
And I love that as soon as Patton figures out he's right, he's sad about it. Like, he's not necessarily excited, but he's not like, he's sad. And then he recognizes, like, as Janus is reaching out to help him right after that, Patton's kind of like, oh, I trust you. And then Roman rolls backwards. Ooh. Like, Patton's like, oh my God, okay. And then Roman's like, no.
Oh, yeah.
No.
Ooh,
you're wrong.
He gets real on the defensive real fast.
It's so interesting to see that divide. It's so cool. Because you see Roman start to tense up and Patton start to go, you know what?
Mm-hmm. Oh, he's amped up too. And he is amped up. And things are said. What?
I almost said Virgil.
Well, he's not related to this episode even a little bit.
He's not.
I think he's the one side who shows up not in this episode at all.
I'll say I still stand by my theory that Virgil didn't show up because he knew something was going to go down no matter whether he showed up or not, and he was like self-deprecating in the corner.
I get that. Yeah, you know, I believe it.
That's what I believe Virgil was doing in that episode.
Also, big thing about this episode, this is the Janus name reveal episode? Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know why I second guessed myself. I was looking at the notes and I was like, we wrote Janus everywhere else, so my brain was like, wait, huh? I was like, oh wait, no, that's because we know him as Janus now. But this was the big name reveal, a very important moment for Janus as he actually decides to be vulnerable and he decides to open up in an honest way, which is not typically his shtick. And then...
Big moment.
And then... something occurs. Would you like to tell us, Amy, what occurs? Since you are the defense for Roman here. And before we talk about any of this, we're about to have a bit of a debate. Before we talk about any of this, let me just claim, I love Roman. He's great. He's not my favorite side, but he's great.
Big eye roll.
Not in my top 5, but he's great.
No.
I love Roman, though. He's great. But I'm going to just fervently go against him. And I am going fully into support of Janus.
Here are the sides that obviously, I mean,
the sides! Sorry, I can't stop doing it.
No, genuinely, obviously, if you're here, you probably know what debate this is. Oh, yeah. But when Janus reveals his name, Roman immediately laughs at him and goes like, he says the whole like, what are you, a middle school librarian? And then Janus immediately bites back with the...
it's a good thing you don't have a mustache.
Huh?
It's a good thing you don't have a mustache, Roman. Otherwise, I wouldn't know who's the evil twin. Wow, am I the one who remembered the quote today?
Wait, say the line without me talking over it.
The quote is, I'm so glad you don't have a mustache, Roman. You know, if it weren't for that, I wouldn't know who the evil twin is. It's basically that. I don't know the exact wording, but it's close to that. If not exactly that, it's almost exactly that.
Roman's face falls, and then he looks at Thomas, and he goes, I thought I was... Or like, I think, is that the moment he starts to get to... Why don't I know this? I need to go back and watch it again. Hello?
I thought I was your hero moment comes a couple seconds after. This was like, you're really defending him, like...
finger pointy, and then he goes, I thought, are you going to defend, you're choosing his side over me?
Yeah.
And then he goes, Thomas, I thought I was your hero. And then he goes, you are. And then Roman sinks out all mad about it.
Yeah.
Or no, he looks at Janice. He has a moment where he looks at Janice and
Janice has like a little nod.
Janice nods, and then Roman goes, oh, well, of course, I'm okay, cool, fun, right, and then leaves.
Which, sad for Roman, but we have a bit of a debate going on between us, and I think the fandom probably has a bit of a debate.
It's the fandom.
Huh?
Oh, it's definitely the fandom.
Oh, yeah.
It's the fandom, because I've heard, oh my gosh, everybody was talking about this as soon as it happened. But the question is, I was going to say, who's in the right?
Janice.
And you say Janice is in the right.
I do.
I say both of them are right and wrong at the same time.
I agree with you that they're both wrong. I do still think that one is more wrong, and I do think that one is Roman.
Okay, so give your side, and then I'll defend.
Well, my side is Janice. I can't help myself.
I said I'll let you defend your side, and then I'll defend Roman.
There we go. So my whole thing, huh?
Roman's gonna get nothing from you.
No, he's not. I'm sorry, he's just not. I love him. I don't think he deserved the full extent of what happened, but I'm not gonna say he didn't deserve something, because here's the thing: Janice again, as we've discussed up until now, has only been working to protect Thomas, to help Thomas, to get him in a place where his mental health is better. And this episode, more than any even before, is so specifically him talking about mental health by name, by terminology, bringing up different mental health, guides and situations, and the plane analogy, which is beautiful. Here more than any, I think this is the episode where more so than any other episode before it, he is so clearly trying to help and doing his best to help. And Roman, again, immediately sees that and is like, you're the villain. There's no way you could be trying to help sincerely. You're a Scooby-Doo villain. Like, he doesn't say that here, but that's his whole stance. I always think of that line with him. But
honestly, I bet Roman's thinking that too.
I'm sure he's always thinking that. Yeah, no, I mean,
I think he's always thinking that with how much they talk about cartoons. I bet that's pretty consistent.
But he's sitting there like, Janus is a bad guy. Janus is a villain. Even when he's trying to help, there must be some ulterior motive. And then Janus, to try and prove himself, gets in a very vulnerable state, takes off one of his gloves, which he had never done before, and just hold his hand up. Probably was his right hand. I think that's how these things work. Hold his hand up. I think so, yeah. I was thinking that's legality. And decides to tell the honest truth, his name. He reveals his name as a sign of trust in order to help prove that he's trying to do the right thing. Roman's immediate response to Janus being vulnerable and trying to help was laughing in his face in the most vulnerable moment Janus has ever had, where he's literally trying to be a team player. And not only just laugh at him, but make fun of his name, his identities, a part of himself he chose to, impart. So Janus, yes, he fired back. But he fired back because he was provoked. It doesn't make it necessarily right. I'm not saying Janus is fully in the right, quote-unquote. I think he's less wrong because he never would have said anything if not for the fact that Roman decided to trash on him in such a very, important moment to his character and to him attempting to help and be part of the team. He would have never done that under normal circumstances. That was a choice he made only because Roman decided to provoke him at the worst possible moment. And that is why I think they're both wrong, but I think that Janus is less wrong and Roman is more wrong because Roman is being incredibly biased and also deciding to fire at the worst, most vulnerable moment. And that's my stance.
It's fascinating.
I think, I don't know about you, and we're about to hear your defense, but I think that's pretty hard to defend against. Because I think I brought up some pretty decent points, not to toot my own horn, but auga. Anyways.
Let me just auga back at you and give you some defense.
Sound effect I can do.
Let me woga it back. All right, here we go.
I'm sorry.
Woga.
If you want, here, I'll pass it over to you.
All right, cool, good.
It's my epic sound effect. I'm treating the ears of the Spotify listeners really well today.
So my argument is, because I agree 100% with everything you're saying. However, I think, here's the deal. On top of that, because yes, Janus was provoked at the most uncomfortable time, or like him being vulnerable, and that was a very raw moment for him, so he didn't really have control of how he lashed out, whatever. But at the same time, Janus knows and is well aware that this is, I mean, obviously he's desperate to get everybody to understand him and respect him. But at the same time, he's got to recognize that some transitions are going to be harder than others. So to an extent, I think he shouldn't have bit back as hard as he did, because he knew that Roman already saw him as a villain. He knew that part. Because Roman has been fighting for it this whole time, and he's been very clear about that up to this point. So I think it was not great of Janus to even remotely be that cold to Roman, because it made Roman's transition to accepting him harder. He really put a dent in their relationship, period, because he's brought up Remus at all. Sure, he could have said, the thing is, he could have said something that was even a little lighter, but because he jumped right to his biggest insecurity, that's where I have a problem.
Arguably, even if Roman didn't know it, he jumped on Janus's biggest insecurity in the sense that he was being honest in a moment that, like,
both of them are in the wrong.
But I think
both of them are completely in the wrong.
But I feel like the instigator is always going to be a bit more at fault. I feel like in any situation, I'm more inclined to say that whoever started it is at least somewhat more at fault than the person who continues it. Because at the end of the day, the person who continues it is only continuing it because something had been started.
But the thing is, if Janus had kept his mouth shut, if Janus had had more control of that.
Yeah.
It's hard. It is a very hard thing to do, to be in control of when you get emotionally provoked like that, of course. Yes, I'm not saying that Janus could have controlled that. But at the same time, if he hadn't have jabbed the exact same level at Roman, then they would have been able to repair that way quicker.
That's true. I do agree with you there. But I will bring it back to, why did he jab back? Why did he jab at all? He wouldn't have jabbed at all if not for the fact that there was an initial jab.
Right, no. Here's the deal. I hear you and I recognize that, but that's where we're debating. I think I'm just saying that he could have jabbed back in a better way so that it wouldn't have been so hard for Roman to see him as the villain. The fact that he immediately compared Roman to the worst, Roman is never going to see him as the good guy now.
Yeah.
It's going to be really hard to make that transition for Roman. So I don't think either of them are in the right.
But I'm not asking who made the more responsible choice. I'm asking who started it. And who started it feels important. I'm not gonna. If someone leaves my door open and a possum gets in the house, I'm not gonna get mad at the possum. I'm gonna get mad at who opened the door. That's my view of this. The possum wouldn't have gotten in if the door wasn't open. And therefore,
you're blaming the person who opened the door on the fact that the possum came in.
No, leaving the door open. There's a difference. I'm not saying I'm saying there was an intentional action that led to something else happening. I'm going to blame the intentional action because the other thing happened because that first thing was started. The possum never would have got in if you didn't leave the door open.
Okay, hold on. Let me
I'm making this real hard for you, aren't I?
Yeah, but that's the thing. That's why I love talking about this with you, because we always really get into each other's skin.
Yeah.
The fact is, you're saying, so in that door comparison, you're saying the possum came in and that was something that was unavoidable.
I'm not unavoidable. I'm saying just that one happened because the other happened. That the possum would never have gotten in the house if not for the fact that the door was open. So because of that, I'm seeing Roman as the person who left the door open, and Janus as the possum.
So...
because Roman opened the door and left it open, the possum got in. I'm not saying the possum was right to come in. I'm saying that I don't blame the possum nearly as much because he wouldn't have been able to come in if the door wasn't open.
Let me just, okay, I'm bringing out psychology at this point now. Because, I love this.
We need to end this soon, but do it.
We do. But correlation, so the correlation here is that both Roman and Janus are equally jabbing at each other's insecurities.
Mm-hmm.
Right? They're pretty equal here.
Yes.
Okay. What you're saying is you're saying that possum getting in, or that Janus actually jabbing back, was caused by Roman.
Yes.
I'm saying that those don't connect. Janus could have had a chill reaction and could have been more controlled in his reaction because that was his choice.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, he was provoked, but that doesn't mean he was provoked. That is a fair point, yes. But I'm saying that correlation, because a big thing in psychology in the math realm is correlation does not equal causation. So the fact that that happened and that Janus fought back is not equatable to a possum coming into the house that's innocent.
Okay, but I'm not saying he's innocent.
No, but that's what you're fighting with.
My possum analogy was just to say that one thing caused the other.
I know, but you're fighting with the perspective that he is.
I'm not. I think I specifically said multiple times now that he's not innocent, that he still did something wrong.
Correct. Right, but like what I'm saying is that analogy of the possum in, it was unavoidable, is what you're saying. It was something that like wasn't in Janus's control for the bad thing to happen. So now you're mad at Roman for calling that.
I don't necessarily mean that it was unavoidable. I think you're putting possums in my mouth, man. I love saying that, no, but my point with the possum is not that it was unavoidable. It's just that one couldn't have happened without the other. One wouldn't have happened without the other. Not that the possum is innocent, or not that the possum is fully innocent, or that it was unavoidable. But because the door was open, the possum got in. If the door wasn't open, possum wouldn't have gotten in, and that's just a fact.
The action of the possum getting in
was not avoidable. It was not unavoidable, rather.
Right, but that's what I'm saying. Yeah. The possum, because the door was open, that doesn't mean the possum came in. Hold on, I'm trying to word this in a way that makes sense.
Yeah, the door being open does not mean the possum had to come in.
That's what I'm saying.
Yes, I agree with that.
Okay.
That's not my argument.
That is the argument.
No.
The fact that like it sounds like you're saying that because Roman
I have a better analogy, I think.
Okay, because I'm just saying that analogy doesn't work with this.
Jail. A prison guard and a cell.
Jail.
Yeah, jail. A prison guard and a cell. If an inmate escapes through an open cell, I'm not gonna blame the inmate if the prison guard unlocked the door. Because he got out because it was unlocked. He wouldn't have been able to get out any other way. So because the prison guard unlocked it and left it unlocked, the guy got out of the cell. And that was a choice that was made. The guy didn't have to go out of the cell, but he only was able to go out of the cell because it was unlocked.
In the same way, though, the inmate didn't have to leave.
Correct. That's what I just said. I literally just said that. He didn't have to leave. That's a choice he made, and that's not the great choice. But he couldn't have left. He couldn't have chosen to leave if not for the fact that the cell door was open. Because the cell door was open and left open, I'm going to blame the prison guard because he didn't do his job properly. I'm not going to blame the inmate for wanting to get out when the opportunity presented itself, because at the end of the day, as not great as that is, the opportunity was there, and it was the prison guard's fault for leaving it open, and he would have gotten fired. You don't punish the inmate as hard for, well, you probably do, but
wait, okay, but
yeah.
In this analogy, are you saying that Janus is both the inmate and the prison guard?
I'm saying that Janus is the inmate, and Roman is
Janus
the
is
prison guard.
and Roman is
Because
the
he
guard.
left the door open, the inmate had a choice to get out. He didn't have to, and it wasn't the correct choice. But because the door was open, because the prison guard wasn't doing his job properly and messed up, then that presented the opportunity for him to be able to leave. And because of that, that's why I believe that it was caused by that. Who thought we'd be talking so hard about prison guards and possums?
This is the best thing. I love it. I'm having the best time.
No, because the door was open, that provided that opportunity. And otherwise, the inmate would have had no other reason to believe he can get out.
Okay. But you can't blame the prison guard for the prisoner's action.
No, you can't. But you can blame the fact that the prisoner had the ability to do so and chose to do so because the guard wasn't properly doing his job. You can't put that decision fully on the guard, but you can blame him for doing a bad job and leading that to being a thing that could happen. And that's my point. They're both guilty. They're both guilty, but Roman's choice led Janus to making that choice. He didn't have to, and he isn't innocent, and he was wrong to say it. But it was because Roman said something at all and was rude in that moment that paved the way for Janus to make that decision. And in that way, I think Roman is more at fault, because he paved that way. As opposed to, I'm not saying he made him make that decision. I'm not saying that Janus is right in that decision. But I am saying that if not for Roman saying what he said and acting like he acted, Janus would have had no reason to do what he did.
Okay.
That's my point.
I fully understand that. I think that Janus is just as much at fault for running out of that cell. I think that's an equal level of being at fault.
At fault, but even still, even if I think their actions were equal, but I think still the blame lies on the person who paved the way.
Because the fact that you're saying that they're equal right now tells me that you're like it directly contradicts, I feel like, what you're saying about how Roman's worse.
I don't think
Roman's
it does. Because I'm saying that, I'm so sorry, I feel like we're going in circles a little bit. We do need to stop in a second. But I still think at the end of the day, their actions are equal. And that does sound like it's against my point, but even though their individual actions were equal, Janus's actions still would not have happened at all if not for Roman's action. Obviously, Janus's action was his choice and his choice alone. I'm not saying Roman made Janus say it, but I'm saying Janus would have had no other reason to say what he said if not for the fact that Roman started something first. That's my argument. He could have
said anything else.
He could have. But the fact is that he had an opportunity to say something only because Roman said something first. Because if Roman theoretically, if Roman hadn't made fun of him in that moment, Janus would have had no reason to slam down on Roman, because why would he? He would have had no reason to. He wouldn't have. And because Roman said something, because he was trying to be a team player, he was trying to gain trust, and he was being nice to Roman up until that point. He literally was. And then the moment that Roman slammed down, that's when Janus slammed back. And it was only because Roman started something that is why Janus decided to start something back. A wrong decision, an equally wrong decision to Roman starting it, but Roman still started it. And that is where I will end off my argument.
Okay.
Because I don't think I can say that any differently at this point, and I don't want to keep going.
You're valid. And the thing is, like, I think we're both trying to convince each other, but we can't, because I love both stances. I think they're both really valid. I think it's just a difference of morals between us, which I think is fascinating. Yeah. But I'll end mine by saying, like, I recognize that you've said that Roman opened that door and then whatever happened was easier to do for Janus because he was pushing forward that way. Like Roman kind of nudged him too hard. I can't get over the idea that Janus didn't have to go there.
He didn't.
And the fact that he went there is where I have the problem.
That's fair. He didn't have to go there. But
he chose to run out of the cell and punch the guard in the face as he left, instead of just running out of the cell or wrecking everywhere else and then going back in the cell, or doing like a million other choices that he could have had.
That's true.
But he chose to punch that guard right in the face.
Oh, yeah.
And make him bleed, make that nose break. Like, it was just not...
But
no.
Why was the cell open?
You gotta leave it. I don't care that the cell was open. The fact that it was open and he chose to punch him in the face.
I think that guy would get fired. And why would he get fired? Because he left the cell?
Okay. We gotta move on.
Yeah, we have to disagree. Let us know in the comments what you guys think about this debate.
I'm never gonna get out of the angle that both are wrong.
All right, we need to rush through the rest of this. We don't have that much left anyways, but I really do.
Thank you for listening to us debate.
Oh my god, this is that debate was everything I ever wanted it to be and more.
Fantastic.
Possums and prison guards. It's great.
But anyway, it's fascinating because Janus is trying his best. He's not perfect, and I love that none of the sides are perfect.
Oh, yeah.
And so with that comes a very interesting perspective, and Janus trying to be as helpful and self-preserving as he possibly can, because Thomas isn't doing a lot of that. And since Patton comes in and is like, hey bro, you're actually kind of a vibe, that changes a lot in the story.
A lot of dynamics, as we discussed in previous episodes. In the Roman and Virgil episodes, we discussed how Patton's new sort of alliance with Janus has affected those relationships, at least in our view of it, and I mean more or less in the canon. But the our last episode that we have to refer to is I guess we call it an episode.
Yeah.
Do we call it an episode?
I would call it an episode.
Okay.
The Unknown song, when Janus sings Into the Unknown. I think that's a very relevant and important conversation between Patton and Janus in the realm of canon, because they're both... I mean, the thing is, there's still kind of a standoffish energy between the two. You can tell. There's still a bit of something. Like Patton going like, because you don't tell me anything? Like, you can tell Patton cares about him now.
Yeah.
And you can tell that there's a new dynamic between them that is really important. That whole dialogue is so interesting.
And just the fact that they're hanging out.
That, and also, like, the song goes into the fact that, like, we consistently lie to ourselves every day about everything being okay. And Patton's argument is like, well, everything is okay. And Janus is like, you're funny. But
funny things.
I love that dynamic between the two, and how you can start to see how they're learning from each other. And Janus is kind of, I mean, I wouldn't say he's learning, but he's like accepting the idea that it could be real. It could be a real thing. And then Patton is accepting it could be lies.
Yeah, it could.
There's a good connection happening there that I really appreciate. I think the Janus and Patton relationship is really, really cool.
Oh, I love it. It's definitely one of the... I think we said it in the last Q&A, is what I think is one of the more interesting dynamics between characters. And I'm really excited to see where it goes, honestly. I need buckets and buckets more of it. Hatfuls and hatfuls.
So Janus and Patton are awesome together, yeah. But my favorite is still Virgil and Janus. I love them a lot, and those two, they're the best.
You can have Virgil and Janus, I'll keep Patton.
I love their rage. I love their anger. I love the angst. I love all of it.
And I love the wholesome vibes.
And that's great.
It's good. Oh my god. So let's talk briefly about how this...
Okay.
Sorry, I said this in like an accent almost, and I was like, how this character has impacted our lives. And I was like, that's not an accent. Wow. Anyways, how has this character impacted our lives?
I think our brains got kind of fried after that debate. We really were trying to find every hole in each other's arguments.
Oh my god, I put so much effort into those analogies.
Can you tell we're Logan Kinnies? Anyway,
Oh my god. Oh my god.
But do you want to go first, or do you want me to go?
Sure. I don't know how much I have to say on this particularly. English is really not my strong suit, even on the best of days, even at the beginning of podcasts, let alone at the end. But no, I feel like I am very much, in a lot of ways, Janus Kinney, as I am with a lot of sides. But like, I feel like I do connect to Janus because I am just that person who likes to just make up things sometimes, and obviously in very kind ways, like nothing like actually hurtful. But I have a history of just
trauma.
Huh? What?
I have trauma.
Oh no! Why do you have trauma? Oh god.
I'm just joking that I have trauma from you, like, making me believe that something actually didn't.
Oh yeah, I have like two examples that I always like to go to, which is I once convinced two friends that there was once a bear that got into an Arby's. Just one of those things I'll just casually mention just absolute bullshit. I'll just be like, yeah, it was like that bear that got into that Arby's, like ate a whole sandwich and then left. And then people will be like, really? I'll be like, no. What do you think? What are you, crazy? No. And then the other one that Amy is aware of that I will happily bring into the world is that once upon a time I made up the fun fact, I was just talking about, like, did you know the word clumsy derived from a man, like, I don't know, like 1900s, like somewhere in the early times, Arnold J. Clums, who, you know, was very accident prone. And then when people were referring to how accident prone he was because they didn't have a really consistently good term for it at the time. I know, my facts skip gas, that's what they do. Because they didn't have a good, like, catchy term for it at the time, they referred to it as, you know, like Clums, like Arnold J. Clums, aka Clumsy. And that's just one of those ones that I just broke out randomly. And then people were like, really? I'm like, no.
It's a very big lie.
It's my favorite.
It's a lie.
It's a lie. But, like, it's just one of those funny things I like to do. I just like to... And I'll always say immediately that it's a lie. I don't, like, just let people believe false facts just, like, consistently. It's just, like, a goofy little thing. But also, I'm very self-preservation, social anxiety vibes. So, like, I tend to... I've definitely lied my way out of some situations many a time due to discomfort and such. So... that's the real way of how he, you know, gets in my life. Is one, just like the desire to get better at mental health, but two, I'm a bit of a liar, but like not in a harmful way.
Yeah.
So you know, I have better methodology than Janus, whereas the intentions are probably usually similar.
Yeah.
So yeah, what about you?
I'd say that Janus really became... I mean, because Janus showed up in 2018, which is right around the time that I was going into college and was very... starting my journey of being independent and also starting my journey of deconstruction in my faith, which was like pulling out of Christianity a little bit. And obviously, I think SVS was the one that really rocked me because it kind of brought to light the idea that, like, my needs and wants matter. And, like, obviously that was something that I knew, but I think recognizing that, like, the faith and Christianity in and of itself is very other people oriented, kind of like I talked about with Patton.
Yeah.
The way that Janus wasn't, and the way that I agreed with everything he said, and like learning to love psychology at the same time, it was really like, whoa. And it gave me a lot to think about in recognizing like learning to love the part of me that is selfish inherently.
Yeah. It's like liberating to think about like that, like, oh wow, I matter. My needs matter.
Yeah, and I think that was really important to process and learn. And I think Janus was part of that transition to help me learn that. I mean, I know because I do that maladaptive daydream thing where the sides are kind of consistently in my brain, Janus fights for my needs a lot. nowadays. Like I think about how Janice pushes me forward because I think about like, what would Janice say? Watch me have those. What would
I was
Jesus
gonna
stupid?
say. Oh my god!
Janice-
The worst thing is it's the same exact initials.
Ew. Anyway,
People will be like, "Oh, you must really be into your faith," and you're like, "Haha, yeah, my faith."
yeah, my face.
Not a snake
anyway.
boy in a bowler hat.
But like, remembering like that, I mean, obviously Janice doesn't always have the best actions, but like if Janice would look at me and kind of go, and Patton would also look at me and go like, you got this, kiddo. That's right. I'd go, I don't love that.
Yeah.
I don't always do that right away anymore. So like, because I have a lot of trauma around the idea that I'm selfish, and I'm always nervous to be perceived as selfish. So like this has really, really helped me ease up in that way. And Janus is just getting more and more interesting the further into the series he goes, because this next episode, it's gonna come to a head. I'm so excited to see what Janus does in this episode, because it's gonna land. I think.
Oh my gosh.
Something's gonna land.
Indeed. Well, case in point, Janus is a good boy, despite what some might think.
Fuck.
And honestly, I think, one of the more fascinating characters, even.
Fantastic. I love him.
Alonzi. Sorry, you said fantastic, and I thought of Doctor Who.
It's great.
Geronimo.
But yeah, I thank you for listening to this entirely long episode now.
Honestly. This has honestly been such a blast to record. This has been my favorite to record for the past while, I think.
I'm sure.
Like,
because you had
going.
Yeah,
it feels very cathartic, honestly.
I'm sure. I'm very sure. Because the thing is, Janus, it's really important to view Janus from the lens of not a villain.
Yeah.
Because I think he's got a very interesting story and a very interesting perspective on this series. I'm really excited to see this next episode.
Oh.
So yeah, patience is key, of course.
Well, indeed.
But at the same
Gotta
time,
give Thomas Boy the time.
Gotta give the time, but also Janus is gonna, ooh.
You're gonna rock our socks off.
I love Janus.
No, I'm not even wearing socks, damn it.
Damn.
You already rocked him off?
He already knocked him off. Dad, go.
That's about right.
What
Janus
the fuck?
always knocks my socks off. That's why I never have socks on.
Yeah. Well.
I'm in a permanent state of sock rocking.
Yeah, there you
We're
go.
never gonna say that one again. That sounded entirely gross.
And on that note.
No, but like, I guess it has to be that note.
It does have to be. You're so valid, though. That was cool. All right, I love you all. Thank you for listening to our podcast.
Oh my God. We'll see you next week with the last of our side study series.
Side study, and then we'll go off into other things.
And other branches of topics. It's actually interesting to think that next week is going to be the last one of these specific ones. Wow.
Yeah.
Oh my God, the next time we'll be able to do one is when the orange side happens. So the side studies aren't technically over yet. It's just on a very long pause.
I'm excited to get to that one.
Oh my God. All right.
Excited.
Oh yeah. Until then, though, goodbye, peeps.
Goodbye.
Love y'all.
Have a good week.
Ah.
Yeah.